Hi, I'm Sly Brandon, VP of Operations, and also coach for Red Talks 2022. I'm excited to introduce LaRhesa and her Red Talk on unmasking authentic leadership. Unmasking authentic leadership applies to everyone, and LaRhesa has a phenomenal story that I want you all to hear.
Many of you have heard the term code switching, but what if I told you masking more accurately describes the strategy you've been doing unconsciously daily? Code switching is using two or more languages, like using African American Vernacular English or AAVE. Masking is a strategy that involves maintaining your expressions and body language, adjusting your tone of voice, and conforming to social pressures, particularly in the work environment. According to Dr. Raquel Martin, a clinical psychologist, masking increases hypervigilance, which increases anxiety and takes away our ability to show up authentically and be our authentic selves. Masking is also associated with a host of other health issues that include stress, loss of identity, high risk of burnout, and exhaustion. There was a time I was suffering the effects of masking. Growing up, I was told to look professional. You had to wear a nice, solid button-up shirt or blouse, solid slacks or knee-length skirt, closed-toe shoes, black or brown, hair straight, definitely not a blonde fade. I was always aware of my mood in the workplace, making sure not to be labeled as rude or angry by just expressing my opinion, never turning down a task. My capacity had no limit. So at the beginning of my professional career, this was pretty much me. Mix in the extra energy it took to just change how I speak, the extra thought of navigating everyday conversations in the workplace, and man, at the end of the day, I was exhausted. One day after work, I was at home talking with my daughter. She was telling me about her day at school, and I realized I wasn't listening. I was completely checked out. And at that moment, I realized I couldn't go on. I'm a single parent, and as a single parent, I cannot afford to give all of my energy to a job and have nothing left to give to my daughter at the end of the day. It's unfair to her, and it is unfair to me. Something had to change. Now, it wasn't a process that happened overnight, but I realized for years I had been hindering myself in my professional career and in my personal life. So without even realizing it, I began to unmask. It started by changing the environment in which I worked in. I figured if I was going to be here for 8 hours a day, I should like it. So I turned off the fluorescents, brought in some lamps, added pictures of my daughters, and added fidgets to my desk. I began to wear clothes that reflected more of who I was, and yep, I got a blonde fade. And as I began to unmask, this is when my authentic leadership journey started. And no, I don't mean I was promoted to some fancy leadership position. I mean, once I became my authentic self in the workplace, I became a leader. I became more confident in sharing my honest feedback, regardless of stereotypes. Instead, I challenged those stereotypes and biases and challenged others to do the same. My colleagues started coming to me for advice and guidance. Leadership sought my feedback, and I received opportunities to sit on department and company-wide committees that were affecting change. Unmasking and being authentically who you are is the one trait that will not be on any top 5 list on Google. It is the one thing you can start doing today in any role you're in. For some of us, it might mean redefining what professional clothes look like, or it might mean switching up your physical environment. It can mean rethinking what professional hair looks like. Imagine growing up as a Black girl and being told the hair growing out of your scalp isn't professional. Crazy, right? I mean, get the blonde fade. Unmasking takes all of us to create this space for each other to show up authentically, allowing those of us who are different from ourselves to bring in their unique perspectives. Supporting those around you by having their back when someone makes that uncomfortable comment on a call or mispronounces their name. Have the courage to look within and recognize your own unconscious biases so that we are creating an environment that is not only diverse, but an environment that is inclusive and not isolating. Create spaces physically and virtually to include themes that represent the cultures and experiences of all. And most importantly, continue to ask how you can support and create psychological safety for everyone to unmask. We are ultimately in the business of people, and connecting with each other, our vendors, and residents in our communities should be our main goal. So this is going to take all of us, from HQ to on-site, to unmask so that we can all be authentic leaders.